Welcome to today's episode of me reviewing highlights. It's been a while since I did this. It just goes to show how the week was busy. But I'm glad to find some time today to get this done. And with that, let's get started with the first one, which is from Remote Not Distant. Leadership is the art of making decisions. Saying yes is easy, but what we say no to defines our success, especially when we have to choose between two good things. Great leaders know when to make sacrifices to stay focused. Pretty much anything that tells me to say no, I highlight it because I have real trouble saying no. And so many books I have read that go on to say from different perspectives why it is important to say no. It's something like I know it in my heart, but I find it very, very difficult to actually do that when the time comes. So it's a good reminder for me all the time. And I would support this from, for example, the book that made the biggest difference to me in understanding this concept is what is the name? 4,000 Weeks. And the way the author approached in that book, the concept of you have 4,000 hours, 4,000 weeks in your life. Okay, 4,000 hours sounds really less. 4,000 weeks in your life. And yeah, it's something about that, something about how the author explained it and how the author showed that how limited we are and how we are defined by our time. That made it so easy for me to start saying no. And yeah, this is another perspective. The author explicitly calls out the term leadership and decision making. So yeah, that's that. Moving on to measure what matters. If your KRs are expressed in team internal terms, launch FOO 4.1, they probably aren't good. What matters isn't the launch, but its impact. Why is FOO 4.1 important? Better. Launch FOO 4.1 to improve signups by 25%, or simply improve signups by 25%. So KRs refer to key results, and in this book is this book is entirely about OKRs and how do you define good objectives and good key results. And as you can see, this highlight is specifically about key results. And outcomes are important. That's the key thing with OKRs, not metrics, not arbitrary like team internal goals. As in the goals can be outcomes, right? So it's a little difficult to express that clearly. But the example helps over here. Not launch something, but what are you hoping to do by launching something? What is the business outcome? And that's a better KR. Moving on. Think again. Relationship conflict is destructive in part because it stands in the way of rethinking. When a clash gets personal and emotional, we become self-righteous preachers of our own views, spiteful prosecutors of the other side, or single-minded politicians who dismiss opinions that don't come from our side. So the three things you see: preachers, prosecutors, and politicians. These are the three stances someone would take, according to the author. There's a whole description about it. These are the three stances somebody would take when dealing with new ideas or when dealing with anything new. We could be preachers that we especially advertise that okay, this is the view. Prosecutors who as the name implies, you prosecute the other side, the people who believe otherwise. And politicians who are tactful and who dismiss opinions that don't come from our side. So yeah, the author is making a point in this particular highlight. The author is making a point about relationship conflict and how it stands in the way of rethinking. The idea of rethinking is that you are thinking again about about whatever belief you have held. And when a clash gets personal and emotional, like the author says, and we kind of get entrenched in our views in one of these three stances, rather than approaching the idea with an open mind. Because relationship conflict is involved in this, we take one of these stances and oppose the idea, even without giving it. Even if the idea is valid, it doesn't matter to us. The relationship conflict will make sure that we reject the idea, using one of these stances. It's a little complicated to explain, without going too deep into the background. And for that, this book is a great read actually. Um, yeah, it's a good read. I would highly recommend reading this. And as always, the links are in the description. So, moving on. Remote, not distant. Again, culture is a carrier of meaning. It provides not only a shared view of what is, but also of why. Your organizational culture turns work into something meaningful, not just a job. I don't know if I can say anything about it. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, turns work into something meaningful, not just a job. All right, yeah. Culture is important. It provides the why. It gives a purpose. It gives the reason for the team to come together and do something, achieve something. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say here. Moving on. Okay, get it done. This is a long one. So reaching the summit of Mount Everest is an aspiration, but training for it seems like a chore. Similarly, studying law describes an aspiration, but studying for the bar exam might seem like a chore. You see where this is going. And while becoming a parent is an aspiration, doing so because you fear regretting a decision to remain childless makes it seem more like a chore. All different examples. These examples illustrate three traps in setting and framing a goal. Framing it as a means to another goal instead of the end goal itself. Setting a goal that is too specific or concrete instead of an abstract goal, and setting a goal in terms of something you wish to avoid rather than something you wish to approach. Falling into any of these three traps will diminish the power of your goals. So this is quite early in the chapter, and the author is talking about different types of goals that we make, which is actually an which is actually a substitute for another goal. So rather than getting specific, we remain vague. Rather than we set an abstract goal, or we set up an avoidance goal. By the way, we have talked about avoidance goals before. So all of them have its place, and the author goes on to explore. When is a particular type of goal relevant? When is the abstract goal relevant? When is a specific goal relevant? All of them have their uses, and all of them have under different scenarios, under different types of outcomes you wish to achieve. They are all relevant. But yeah, it's very very important to understand that understand yourself first of all. In this book, Get It Done, it focuses a lot about yourself. What kind of person you are, what so depending on a type of goal, what kind of expertise do you have, and so on. And based on that, pick either an avoidance goal and an accomplishment approach goal. uh, that will help you maintain that motivation. And that's the biggest value of this book, that it explains. It's not like a off the shelf guideline that, okay, do this for better motivation. Kind of is, but it's highly customized. You have to look at yourself and understand, yeah, that I am this type of person. I am so and so, thusly skilled in any particular thing, and that is why I'm going to pick this kind of goal. So again, this book is quite difficult to read, honestly, but it's worth it. Moving on, another long one. Team Topologies. Matthew Skilton, I've seen a lot of his videos coming up. In fact, he even came recently on a Dora webinar. But yeah, someone still had to keep oversight of the system as a whole and ensure subsystems integrated and interacted according to the desired user experience, performance, and reliability. Therefore, specific roles were created, such as system architects, system owners, or integration leads. Crucially, people in these roles work across the entire project organization, sort of like communication conduits with direct and frequent interaction with feature teams. They support them on cross subsystem concerns such as interfaces and integration to allow them to maintain a regular feature delivery cadence. Um, okay, all of these things are there, but I don't have the context of who they're talking about. Are they talking about stream aligned teams, as in these roles were created in the stream aligned teams, or these roles were created because the later passage kind of talks about all of these things created in. It kind of implies platform teams. So I'm not really sure where this is, and I could mess it up. So I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't really. Let me just read it once more. the thing that confuses me over here is that, with direct and frequent interaction with feature teams, but feature teams, I believe, would be stream-aligned teams, right? So if these roles are within stream-aligned teams, why is the author writing it this way, with direct and frequent interaction with feature teams? That I'm not able to process that. But because the rest of it makes sense, if we talk about like all of this within stream-aligned team, the rest of it, everything makes sense. That the need for these specific roles in stream-aligned teams, or feature teams themselves, is to do with complexity, is to do with becoming a communication conduit. So let's move on. Kill it with fire. Oh, another long one. On the internet, consumers pay more to get faster speeds. That put the pressure on telecommunication companies to compete by making connections faster. The faster the internet became, the more people put on it. The more content that was on the internet, the more consumers started logging on. It's talking about a spiral, right? An exponential growth. The more people trying to access a given resource on the internet, the more expensive hosting those resources on your own machines became. Eventually, this flipped the value proposition of the computer industry by making it cheaper to process data in the cloud than it was to process it locally. So, the author is talking about how the technology keeps um, oscillating like a pendulum, or I don't know what other analogy to use over here, but there is always a swing. One of the central tenets of this book is that technology is never growing linearly. As in, we say things are new, like a new framework that's introduced, we call it new technology, but that's not true. That's very much old technology. I've used this example before in these videos as well. Many of the JavaScript frameworks coming out today, they are actually just going back to the ideas of server-side rendering. That was already prevalent from like 20, 30 years ago. With things like PHP and other languages that sometimes give people cringe today, but they were popular, and those languages are becoming a lot more relevant today. PHP is kind of going through it's already gone through that renaissance. It's actually years since that renaissance happened, and PHP is back, and it's active, and it's very, very powerful right now. And with with popular frameworks like Laravel and Symfony, and like a lot of CMS is written on it, PHP is here to stay. So the point I'm trying to make here, and like with this passage as well, is that technology is cyclic, and this is an example of how, or this explains an example of why computing went from on the cloud, as in, like, there was a timeshare computing. Cloud computing is essentially timeshare computing of, like how we used to have it in days of mainframe. We have a single mainframe, and people are connecting to it via remote terminals. We are essentially going back to those days. So cloud is nothing new, really. That's the point here. You're just going. The concept is very similar to what we had in the days of mainframes and large computers. But as computing increased, it shifted to dedicated servers and everything. And now, because of all of these reasons, that's described in this passage, there is a need for things to go back into the timeshare computing model. So essentially, the central point of this is that technology is cyclic. There's nothing like new technology. Like that old adage I've heard something. There is nothing new under the sun, just things we have not tried yet. So, factfulness. When someone says that a majority of a group has some property, it can sound like most of them have something in common. Wait, what is this? When someone says that a majority of group has some property, it can sound like most of them have something in common. All right, okay, yeah. Confusing sentence. Remember that majority just means more than half. It could mean 51%, it could mean 99%. If possible, ask for the percentage. So the author is, this book is all about fact finding. Like what is actually true. Get data to support your views. Don't just make hunches. So like a central example that the author keeps coming back to is about poverty, and how it feels like the world is getting worse. But by various terms, not all terms, I don't think so, but by various terms, by most of the terms, the world is actually getting better. So it's not very simple. The author is not making a case that world is absolutely getting better, because like this highlight says, percentages matter. So, like if somebody says a majority of a group has something that makes it common, that's not the focus here. That thing about property, that's not the central focus here. But if somebody says the majority of a group has something in common, ask them what that majority means. Is it like 51%, which is not that impressive, or 99%? Yeah, okay, which is significant. That's really about it. Okay. The science of overcoming procrastination. Three psychological tactics that will have you push just the right buttons in your own psyche, so you can get yourself up and running as you set about accomplishing your tasks. These three tactics are: don't rely on your mood, deal with omission bias, and visualize your future self. Um, I'll talk about what I remember. Um, this book is about, like the name says, it's about overcoming procrastination. So the tactics are: don't rely on your mood. You may be feeling bad, you may be feeling like tired and all of that, but don't rely on that to make decisions. Make decisions based on the outcomes that you want to see in yourself. Deal with omission bias. I'm kind of forgetting that. What's that? And visualize your future self. I think it's quite clear. It's quite apparent that you're visualizing your future self after you have completed a certain activity. Once you get over your procrastination and complete something. So these are some psychological tactics that will push the buttons for you to get a move on when you're otherwise just feeling like, okay, now let me leave it for later. So let's move on. Working backwards. Did I miss something? No. All right. Working backwards. Another long one. It's a long video today. It's already 17 minutes. Each time we had these meetings, Jeff would reject what he saw as copycat thinking, emphasizing again and again that whatever music product we built, it had to offer a truly unique value proposition for the customer. He would frequently describe the two fundamental approaches that each company must choose between when developing new products and services. We could be a fast follower, that is, make a close copy of successful products that other companies had built, or we could invent a new product on behalf of our customers. He said that either approach is valid, but he wanted Amazon to be a company that invents. I think this is straightforward. I don't feel I can add anything to this. Anything I can talk about further? Yeah, two different approaches: fast follower and a company that invents new approaches. And a lot of this is reflected in books like Think Again, by the way, that you don't have to be the first mover to invent. But again, like considering that I'm already at 18 minutes, I won't go too deep into that. But yes, absolutely, this is very strongly reminds me of everything that you read in Think Again. So with that, I'll call it a day. It's been a long video, mainly because of so many long highlights today. But I still had fun with most of the highlights, apart from like one or two, which I really didn't remember much. And with that, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.